Mother. You know, as much as motorcycles are fun to ride, and at least in, oh damn, something hit me hard. At least in my case, they actually help alleviate stress and help with depression and kind of just help me get my mind off of the daily grind of every day. But no, and I'm sure that there's a lot of videos mentioning the negatives of riding. Honestly, I want to be a little bit specific and give you five reasons why I specifically hate this motorcycle. This bike is a 2019 Ducati Scrambler Café Racer. Now, they recently actually discontinued this bike in favor of a couple other flavors of Scrambler. Which I'm actually kind of happy about, because it'll bump the price up in rarity of one of these. So specifically, there's two of these. There's a black, what they call the Black Coffee Cafe Racer. That was the first run of a Cafe Racer. And then there's this silver and blue, kind of 70s Desmo style Cafe Racer. And I want to give 5 reasons why I specifically hate this bike. Now, first and foremost, you know, one of the main reasons, it might be because of where I am located regionally. So I live in Texas, and it doesn't get very cold here very often. And quite frankly, it actually feels like we're on fire half the time. Anyway, for anybody who's owned Ducatis or ridden Ducatis for a period of time will tell you these things are spicy. And not only in the looks department, but they run hot. It feels like your nether regions are always on fire after, you know, riding for a little while. I will tell you this much: do not ride an air-cooled Ducati in traffic. It's not fun, and you will be standing up on the pegs like if it's a dirt bike. So my dislike, my hate number one, is definitely how hot these things run, how hot they can get. It's almost painful, but to be quite honest, most Ducatistas and Ducati riders are gluttons for punishment anyway, in more than one way. Number 2 on my list is that this particular bike, even amongst other ones, so whenever Ducati switched up from that black coffee paint scheme, they had like these nice cast, look like cast aluminum, kind of gold tinted wheels. Now for this one, for the silver model, they switched it up to a spoked wheel. which looks fantastic. I'm not gonna argue the looks of this bike with the wire wheels. I think it kind of adds to the character. It definitely just kind of lends its own look to it. It's more classic looking. But there's a downside. Now, most modern motorcycles, like you got your Ducati Multistrada, perfect example. They have spoked wheels too, but they're tubeless. This thing has tubes, which means that I'm effectively SOL if my tire gets punctured, which has happened on more than one occasion, which makes patching on the road impossible because that tube is punctured. I can't do anything about it. I've actually had a tube go bad in this bike on my way home from work one day. Nothing was wrong with the tire. The tire was not punctured. I don't know how it happened. But the tube just went out. And that, not only has that happened once, that has happened twice. And the second time was kind of a dangerous situation. So me and my wife were actually on our way back from a ride. We were coming back from having like a morning cup of coffee, and we were kind of out all day, and I check my tire pressures regularly. And so we're coming back, and all of a sudden, like, we get off the bike and we're about to have, you know, something to eat. My wife turns back and looks at the bike. She's like, is the tire supposed to be that low? And I look over at it and I think it's a puncture. I think like, oh crap, I got another puncture. Well, this is great. Oddly enough though, there was no puncture. So thankfully my mother-in-law was watching you know, our kids while we were out having the ride, and she managed to bring one of my little air compressors that I always have for all my vehicles. So she brought the air compressor to me. I'm like, hopefully I can at least air it up enough to get back to the house so I can at least park it, so I can get this, you know, thing fixed. Lo and behold, I air it up and it actually holds pressure for a little bit. But there's no puncture in the tire. And so it just starts slowly deflating over time, and I'm like, what is going on? And so I take the bike to the place where I've gotten the tires changed before, and they're probably sick of me by now because this is like the third or fourth time that I've shown up with something going on with my tire. But yeah, it was a bad tube. So yes, one of the things I hate about this bike is that it runs tubes. Be aware of that if you're thinking about picking up one of these particular models, or maybe even another on the Scrambler line. I'm not sure. I think a couple of more run the tubed spoked wheels on the Scrambler line. It might even be the newest one, the one that replaced this one. I forget what it's called. It's not as pretty, so I don't remember its name. Number 3 is that it's a small bike. Now, about me, I am, as of right now, 5'10" and some change. And I'm not gonna lie, like, that's a fairly average, you know, at least average for an American size. I feel scrunched up on this bike a lot. Like, I am close to being in a fetal position. Even if I stretch out and kind of push back, and I kind of use my knees to compensate so I don't slide forward, which is another problem, and hit my junk on the gas tank. This is a small bike, and in fact a lot of the Scramblers are small bikes. Like, I don't think that anybody, well, at least in this case, because it's running the clip-ons, so I'm losing a few inches on height. Yeah, so I'm less upright, so I'm more hunched down. man, it's literally just not, over time it's just not fun to ride for prolonged periods of time. But yeah, man, it's just a really tiny bike. It's just the way that these seats are angled on this particular bikes. Your junk is going right into the tank. Go. It just scrunches you up. And then the added the added hatred of number one, where the bike is getting hot and it's all coming up right here. You'll feel it on your thighs. Excuse me. You'll be burning up. Uncomfortably burning up. Well, in any case, yeah, motorcycles aren't fuel efficient. I'm sorry. That's the truth. That'd be another point of dislike. They're not fuel efficient. In fact, a lot of motorcycles, well, I don't say a lot of motorcycles, but at least the Ducatis, man, they run premium. And I don't know if you've been in America the last year or so, but you know, inflation and inflation. People cutting pipelines, people making us dependent on foreign oil again. Yeah, it's a small tank for one. All these scramblers run small tanks. I don't know the exact amount of gallons that they hold. I'll put that somewhere in the video. But my average range on this thing per tank, and keep in mind with 93 octane with premium, is on a good day 150 miles. So fuel efficiency is not there. But then again, like anybody who understands the concept of motorcycles, and that they're more of a, you know, vanity purchase at this point. They're kind of just more toys than they are commuters vehicles. GS owners aside, they're not fuel efficient. You're gonna be nickeled and dimed to death putting premium in these things all the time. Because, you know, it depends on how you ride, depends on your throttle control, everything else like that. You're really not gonna see a improvement in mileage, like. But you don't buy these things to get good gas mileage, the same way I wouldn't buy a truck with cylinder deactivation. Thank you, Chevrolet, for being dumb with that. You don't buy sports cars to go slow or to save money. You buy them because of speed. That's what you buy them for. Give me some coffee. Then I'll think of more numbers, and somehow I'll pull these out of my rear end and make 5. I promise. So coffee first. All right. Cool. Well, I'm gonna sign out for now. Mother. For what it's worth, I think most Ducati owners understand this sentiment. you get what you pay for, but you still continue to pay for it. Now, the thing I hate most, and this kind of goes in Ducatis in general, for Ducatis in general, is that our services are a little premium. And the thing I hate most about this bike in particular is that our services, our valve services, the Desmo service, is just so flippin' expensive. And for this bike in particular, the valve services can run anywhere from about $900 to $1,500, maybe $1,700 after tax, depending on where you go, who's doing the service, how often the service is being, well, not how often, I'm about to explain that. So this bike needs the Desmo service every 7,500 miles. And the way I ride, 7,500 miles is just not a lot. I tend to ride my bikes. I've always kind of done that. And even if you don't reach that point, if you do not reach the 7,500 mile threshold, you have to get your valves checked yearly. And to be honest, if you're not ready for that, that's a sticker shock. And just if anybody's thinking about buying a Ducati, be well aware of the ultimate cost of ownership. But you're going to be, you know, just be prepared, because every year or every 7,500 miles, your wallet is about to get $1,500 lighter. The way I like to explain it is that I don't ride Ducatis because I'm poor. I'm poor because I ride Ducatis. And so there, hopefully, if I counted correctly and my brain is working properly, are 5 reasons that I hate this bike. Yeah.